Greetings. This is Mr. Phrase Keywords, aka Omari, and I'm very excited to be here for the Phrase Your Flows Founders Podcast. Yes, I am the founder of Phrase Keywords, and we're going to get into what would be storyboarding. Storyboarding is part of the creative uses section of the phrasekeywords.com website. And if you go to phrase keywords and click on creative uses, you're going to see three major topics: user guidance, biography capture, and storyboarding. So, storyboarding is what we're going to cover today. I'm going to try to get it done in one session, but if we need more time, then I'll add a second one, of course. Now, I'm going to bring you here to the PKD tool. The phrase keywords designer tool is what we've been using in these training sessions. This is a tool that I created that allows you to phrase your flows. If you're not sure what that means, or if this is your first time watching a video here, make sure you go to the main Founders Podcast page and watch from the beginner to the intermediate to the advanced level of using the PKD tool. Once you've passed the advanced level, then you'll be ready to explore the creative uses section, which covers, like I mentioned a moment ago, user guidance, biography capture, and what we're going to cover today, storyboarding. So let's jump right into it. You can, if we go to the storyboarding, this the image here for the topic of storyboarding, you see that we have a hand here, and someone is drawing out an illustration. And if you look really closely to where his pen is at, it's actually writing a caption under that illustration. So, storyboarding is something that is used heavily in the filming industry. If there's any major blockbuster film, movie that you've seen recently, or television, or streaming, any sort of recorded movie will have what would be a storyboard. It's not the first thing that gets created. Usually, the storyboard is developed from some form of a script, a movie script, or a TV show script. But with movies in particular, especially animated movies like what you would see at Pixar, via Disney, or other major creative studios that specialize in what would be children's stories or fiction-based narratives where the characters are, need to be drawn out in the form of a storyboard. Usually, the script is translated into a storyboard, and they would hire a team of artists that would create these illustrations. So that's a very, it's a timely process. It's not something that happens overnight. It's a major step in that studio's creative process, because once they can see what they're actually putting together frame by frame, then at that point they can make certain edits because they're seeing it from the perspective of how the camera's angled, how the character is interacting with the scene. And so, because they can see it frame by frame, it becomes a very, very important step for the editing process as they're constructing that narrative for the film or the TV show. So, think of storyboarding as in that life cycle of creating the film itself. Storyboarding is the illustrative part that allows them to visually see frame by frame what they're going to shoot. But at the same time, it's not even remotely close to the final product. They're usually just sketches, and a very talented artist can sketch rather quickly. Now, it's changing slightly because what's happening, what's been recently introduced, especially at the time of this recording in 2023, is the usage of artificial intelligence programs to create these illustrations. And right now, there's a lot of back and forth between the traditional artists that would hand draw these and make a nice decent amount of money from that creative process. Now you have AI that's stepping in, and obviously that's disrupting what would be the stability of those artists who like to hand draw and make good money, make a living from that. So what is AI doing? Well, AI could potentially come in and disrupt that and take a lot of those jobs away. So there's a lot of conversation going on right now, not just with storyboarding, but with all areas of what would be the filming process. I can get into a lot of those topics, but I promised myself I was going to stay on script. In the interest of time, I'm not going to get into, the morality or the ethics of AI and its impact on humanity. That's for another conversation. What we're going to really just talk about briefly is this. When it comes to the usage of AI tools, phrase keywords fits into that quite nicely because AI tools require a prompt. They require the person to explain to the AI what it wants to be drawn, what that person wants the AI to draw. And so because it's prompt based and phrase keywords is a standardized set of, sentence structures that articulate what a person wants. In this case, if a person wants an AI image to be drawn, then all I had to do was switch the PKD tool into that genre that allows you, myself, or any other person to articulate with the point and click features of the PKD tool exactly what they want the AI to draw, feeding that into the AI's prompt. And then after the AI produces the image, then bringing that image back to the PKD tool so that it can be displayed for that particular storyboard frame. Now, I know I said a lot there. It's going to make a lot of sense once we start getting our hands into the tool itself. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Give me a minute, I just need to hydrate. So, if we go to the PKD tool, I still have it set to the outline genre here. And what I want to do is I want to switch genres to storyboarding. And the way we would do that, if this sheet is hidden, you can unhide it by clicking the All Sheets option. We're in Google Sheets here, right? And when you click that, you can see all the different sheets. If they're not highlighted here, if they're grayed out, then that means they're hidden. Settings, I took it out of hide mode and now I'm showing it. So if we go to settings, the very option at the top is genre, and we have a list box. We'll choose, there's different genres that we can choose. We'll choose storyboarding for this training session. So now that we've chosen storyboarding, I can close this or hide it, I should say. And now that I'm back at the PKD sheet, as we can see here for our phrase keyword steps here, it's been changed to the storyboarding phrase keyword. So we have a good, let's see, it looks like about a good 30 or 40 of them. And so the first thing I want to point out is that in the search box up here, we can narrow down this long list into one or two items just to narrow it down, right? So I could say, for example, I want to look for oil. I type oil, now it's only showing the phrase that has the word oil in it. So if I want to get rid of that and show all the phrases again, I just delete it. All right. So what I've set up is a template. We've touched on templates when we were doing the biography. So a template would be a sheet. It just acts as an already organized, already laid out set of phrases that you can start out with. If you don't use a template, then you would have to know beforehand which phrases you want to use, and then for each phrase you would click the checkbox. But if you just want to start with something that's already pre-made for you, then you would use the template. In this case, I have a template called Storyboarding Template Simple Scene. So we're gonna go ahead and click that. And what it's gonna do is it's going to process our template by loading it into the PKD output section. So let's just wait a few seconds for that. All right, it's been added successfully. So once the template is added, we have two sections here. We have section one, enter the AI prompt. We have the second one, which talks about the closeness of the shot, and then we have the third phrase here that talks about the style that the image is going to be displayed in. Now, just to give you an idea of what the options are, for line 3 here for medium shot, this is medium shot, and we have 5 different options: extreme close up, medium long, and extreme long. So again, this is just talking about the distance between what would be the camera and the character that's in the illustration. So for example, with if I were to say extremely long, then I'm implying here that I still want my character to be in the frame, but let's say it's a picture of, a woman walking with her son. I want the distance to be as if, I was on top of a hill, and I was like 100 feet away, and I was taking a picture of the woman with her son. Now imagine that distance, and then if we go to extreme close up, it's the complete opposite. In the case of the woman and her son, now I want the camera to be very close, extremely close, to the point where, you know, I'm probably in I'm probably at an angle where I can see a close up of both of their faces at the same time, and nothing else. Just their faces. So that's extremely close. So medium is right in the middle of that, right? I most likely will have a full body, but it's not so far away so as to put them, as small characters in the shot, and it's not so close as to only see their face, but I can see their whole body, and I can see them actually. I can see the elements in the picture that is around them to give me context as to what they're doing. Oh, they're walking to the store. Well, I can see that they're on a city block. I can see the lamppost. So it's close enough to see those elements in the shot, but not so far as to see too much and not see them, if that makes sense. And then storybook is referring to the illustration style. And if we scroll down here, as you can see here, there are a lot of different illustration styles. Storybook is down here at the bottom. There's all kinds of illustration styles. You can have your illustration look like a pencil sketch, a ballpoint pen sketch, a political cartoon style. You could do watercolors, airbrush style. There's sticker illustrations. There's all types of styles. We're not going to get into all the different styles, but I will give you a reference at some point in the description of this video that will take you to the instructions as to what all of these different options mean when you're dealing with AI. But to keep it simple, when you click the use template, it loads all of this in for you. By default, it's going to set you to medium, and it's going to use storybook style. Now, what I would do next here, since I already have the layout, now what I want to do is I'm going to enter in the AI prompt for line 2 here. Then I'm going to enter in a caption. But before I can get to that, let's just first think about what is the storyboarding concept that I actually want to create here. If you're an artist, if you're a writer, if you're a storyboard artist, you may already have that in your mind because you're already working on a project. But hypothetically, let's say, for example, let's see, I'm just going to pull something off the top of my head. Let me put my shades on for this one. Got to make it good, right? But let's say, for example, there were a retro gamer who, reached the top of his gaming. Let's say the retro gamer played Miss Pac-Man. He was a Miss Pac-Man player, and he was at a bar playing at the on an arcade cabinet, and some random guy challenges him to a competition because the random guy thinks that he is a better Miss Pac-Man player than the main character. So the random guy is a little hostile, a little aggressive. He's been drinking a few drinks, and he wants to prove to this guy that he can beat him in Miss Pac-Man. So he's approaching him while he's playing Miss Pac-Man, and he's very, aggressive, and he says, "Hey man, I don't care how good you think you are at Miss Pac-Man, I can beat you, and I challenge you to a game." And the main character in this case is me, and he looks over his shoulder, seeing that the guy has had a few drinks, but at the same time seeing that this guy might actually be a good Miss Pac-Man player, accepts his challenge, and let's just capture that scene. Now, what happens next is another scene. In this scene, it's just the scene where he walks up to him while he's playing and he presents this challenge, and I accept as the main character. All right, so we got the scene here. So if we approach the storyboarding genre in the PKD tool, we have to think about it frame by frame. So the first thing we're going to do for this enter AI prompt is we're going to give it a prompt that captures that first scene. And the first scene is going to start off as this first frame in the scene. It's going to start off with the guys at the bar, and I'm playing Miss Pac-Man. I'm minding my own business. So we'll start off with just I'm playing Miss Pac-Man at the arcade cabinet at a bar. You don't even know about the other guy in his very first frame. All you see is me. So if you could imagine, like, the scene opens up, and if this was a play on stage at the theater on Broadway, the light would only show me. It wouldn't show everything else. Everything else is in the backdrop. You don't even know it's there, but it will show me playing Miss Pac-Man. And then in the next frame, then it will open up. It will turn the lights on, and the guy at the bar will come into view, and we'll get to hear his conversation with the bartender. And maybe he says something really arrogant like, "Who does this guy think he is?" Because I have on a shirt, and my shirt says that it says number one Miss Pac-Man player in the world. So because I'm wearing that shirt, he looks over and he's like, "Who does this guy think he is? I can beat him." He's like talking to himself, and he's also talking to the bartender, and the bartender is just like, "Yeah, okay." He doesn't really care because we're talking about Miss Pac-Man, but he's just like, "Okay, this is my customer, right?" So all right, he like gives him the nod, and that's when the guy, you know, all right, now I'm gonna, kind of slams his shot down, or his beer. I haven't decided if he's doing a shot or a beer or wine. I want him to like have a cup, and he just kind of like sits it down, jumps out of his chair, and is now coming over to challenge me. You're not the number one Miss Pac-Man player. I am. All right, so now that we have the concept, let's just see how we would go about setting up the storyboard. So the first frame I mentioned is just will be me playing Miss Pac-Man. So I'm going to edit this here, edit step, and I'm going to enter in a prompt, and the prompt is going to be man is playing Miss Pac-Man in bar. All right, so I kept it really simple. And if you notice here, when you type in your prompt, it changed it a little bit here. It says create an image that displays man is playing Miss Pac-Man in bar. Use medium shot, not going to change that. Storybook style, not going to change that. And the caption, the scene, I'm not going to worry about that just yet. So if you notice here that the only thing that I need to change here is this one line, line two, which is create an image, right? That displays man is playing Miss Pac-Man in bar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this as its own frame by choosing Save PKD. And I'm going to call it Scene 1, Frame 1. S for scene, F for frame. Let that run and let it complete its formatting. All right. So now that this is pretty much laid out, what I want to do is I want to just edit this a little bit, clean it up a little bit, create an image that displays a man playing Miss Pac-Man. I'm going to say in the back of a bar. All right. So that just cleaned it up a little bit so that I get exactly what I want. And this time I'm going to add a caption. It's going to say, man is playing this Pac-Man in the rear on the arcade in the rear of the venue near the men's bathroom. So I wrote it out like that just to show you the clear difference between what would be the AI prompt section and the caption section. We spent a little bit more time in the caption section as far as just saying it the way that will most effectively communicate what's happening here to my creative team. Because that's what they're going to read when they see the final image. They're going to read the caption. The image section is there to articulate exactly how I want to say it to AI. So I'm speaking to two different audiences here. So line two is for AI, and line six, the caption, is for my creative team, which ultimately, as I go from frame to frame, they can read it rather quickly and it gives them an idea of how the story is developing. So the caption's important, very important for them. All right, so notice that I have some black space here beneath line 7. I would place my image here once it's been generated by the AI. So in this case, I have two options if I want to create the next frame. I can go back to the PKD tool and I can clear it and start the process all over, or I can just go to the frame that I'm on and duplicate it. So let's just go ahead and do that. It's a little bit faster to just duplicate it and rename it. Scene 1, frame 2. And in the interest of time, what I usually do is if I have an idea of how many frames I'm going to use for this scene, I'll just create all the frames at once. So for example, if I say I'm going to have 8 frames for this scene, I can highlight 2 sheets, then choose duplicate, and then I can highlight 4 sheets and choose duplicate, and now I have 8. And then what I would do is I would just go through the cleanup process. I would say, okay, I did frame 2. Let's call this one, right, 3. So that cleanup process, it can take a while. So you can move stuff around if you need to. And so I'm going to move 2 down so that it appears spatially right after 1. So 1, 2, 3, and then as we move on, we just name it in real time as we go to 4 to 5 all the way to 8. So now that I've copied that, all I have to do now is just edit line 3 and line 7, right? Or excuse me, 2 and 6. It's row 3, but we labeled it as line 2, so that's why I corrected there. Ah, you have to be, when it comes to dealing with phrase keywords, you want to be one of those individuals. You're going to become one of those individuals that pay close attention to the details, the very granular stuff, like the difference between row 3 and saying row 3 and line 2. And when we talk about the granularity here, I'm going to keep creating an image that displays a man. I'm just going to more than likely just change the verbiage as to what the man is doing. Which man am I talking about? You don't have to be very specific when it comes to AI, because from the AI's perspective, it's just going to draw that one picture. So for example, in frame 2, I want to switch the attention to the man at the bar. So I'm going to have the AI create an image that displays a man at the bar talking to his bartender. And so I'm going to caption that as man sitting at bar is slightly drunk and is talking loudly to the bartender. All right. So on frame two, our attention is shifting away from the man that's playing Miss Pac-Man to the man that's sitting at the bar. So now at frame three, we're going to shift the attention now to, well, we're not going to really shift the attention. We're going to display the man at the bar reading. So the man displays a man at the bar looking over his shoulder at a man playing Miss Pac-Man. So we want to just capture that moment where he's noticing. So if I go back to this caption, I'm just going to paste it in here so that we have some context. So now the man sitting at bar is noticing the t-shirt of the man playing Miss Pac-Man, right? So the image is gonna, again, the AI is creating the image. It doesn't care about the sentiments or the emotions. We're just giving it the information it needs to create the image. But the actual caption is going to capture that he's noticing it, right? So now we're ready to go to the next frame. And so in order to do the next frame, we're going to fix the name of the sheet to frame four. So we'll go down here and we'll click rename, make that four, and we'll remove this copy of. All right, now we got frame four. I'm going to copy this caption from frame two. We're going to reuse that in frame four. And the same is true for the image creation prompt part. So what happens next, right? The man sitting at the bar notices the t-shirt. So having noticed that, we're going to create an image that displays a man. What is he doing? He's walking towards the man playing Miss Pac-Man. And let's see. Man gets up from bar and approaches the man playing Miss Pac-Man. So the image here, we could use a little bit more detail because this, a man walking towards the man playing Miss Pac-Man, is not enough detail for the AI to create an image that we want. So remember, the prompt here has to be detailed enough to create the image. So how can we make it a little bit more detailed? So a man walking towards, so a man in the bar walking towards another man who is playing Miss Pac-Man at the back of the bar. Maybe that will give us the image we want. And we want to say here, and aggressively approaches the man playing Miss Pac-Man. Again, the caption is for a different audience. These are the actual creative people they're going to be viewing the image, and I want to give them some context as to what's going on emotionally as well in this particular frame. So if we go to our first frame, The man is playing Miss Pac-Man on arcade in the rear of the venue near the men's bathroom. We have that. Then we have a man sitting at bar, slightly drunk and talking loudly to the bartender. The man sitting at the bar is noticing a T-shirt of the man playing Miss Pac-Man, and the man gets up from bar and aggressively approaches the man playing Miss Pac-Man. So we can see this scene developing, and we'll have 4 frames, which is basically 4 images that are showing in storybook style this progression of this narrative. So what happens next, right? Let's just get to the next frame. We're gonna call this frame 5, and in frame 5, we're gonna look at frame 4 to pick it up from there. Man gets up from bar and aggressively approaches the man playing Miss Pac-Man. So man loudly challenges the man playing Miss Pac-Man to a 2-player duel. So we have here will be frame 5, where he's being loud, right? And he's saying, I challenge you. I can play better than you. I challenge you to see who's the best. So how would I want AI to display that? AI displays a man. I would just say displays 2 men in front of Miss Pac-Man, and just humoring. I'm just humoring myself here. But from AI's perspective, these 2 men are about to fight. But we'll say uh, one starting a fight with the other. All right. So one starting a fight with the other, hopefully will produce an image of, not too much violence, but an image of a man with his fist balled up, almost like he's about to punch the other guy in the chest. But the caption is putting it into context, saying, "No, this is just a challenge for a Miss Pac-Man 2-player duel." He's not really going to punch him in the chest, but his body language is certainly communicating like there's a fight about to start. So let's go to the next frame. What do you think we're going to place here? Let's clean it up here. We want to have it be frame 6, and we're still in scene 1. So frame 6 is going to have, let's look at frame 5. So the challenge is made. So what we're going to say here is man that is playing Miss Pac-Man, he accepts the 2-player duel challenge. And so in the image, we're going to display, so what do we have here? 2 men in front of Miss Pac-Man. So we're going to update that with a copy and paste, and 2 men in front of Miss Pac-Man, and both are shaking hands. So now we have the handshake. Agreed. We'll play a duel. We'll play 2-player mode to see who's the best. So let's move on to the next frame. It's frame 7, and we'll clean that up. So if frame 6 is the acceptance of the duel, it only makes sense that in frame 7, a decision has to be made as to who would go first. Because when you're playing Miss Pac-Man, even though you're playing it in 2-player mode, at the beginning, someone has to go first, and then when that player loses its life, his or her life, right? Then it's the next player's turn. That next player starts from the very beginning and gets to play until they lose a life. So you have to decide who's going to play first. So in the seventh frame, that's what we'll do. Man displays a quarter. Let's say not a quarter. Let's say a $half, since that's so much bigger. Man displays a $half coin and flips it to decide who will start the game first. So if we go to the AI prompt for this, what do we want to display? Man displays a man. Create an image that displays a man flipping a coin in the air. That should be sufficient. And then finally, when we get to frame 8, before we get to the details, let's just go ahead and clean this up. Now we're at frame 8, our last frame. We're deciding here who gets to start first. So do I have a quarter on me? I don't have a quarter on me. But if I did, I would just go through the motions to, as I'm writing this storyboard to decide who's going to go first. It's the fun part about using phrase keywords with storyboarding is because I've taken so much of the heavy lifting and simplified it for you, you can focus on the narrative itself without really getting caught up into how it looks or which angles. You can do that stuff later. You can make small modifications. But at this stage, when we're using these phrase keywords, we can really just focus our attention on the visual that we're creating. And in this case, if I had to say it, I would say that the guy that's making the challenge, let's let him go first. So he wins the toss. And he has this like celebration after he wins the coin flip toss, because in his mind, this is confirmation that he's in fact a better player. But that's yet to be proven. But in his mind, because he wins the coin toss, this is like it's been written for him. He's like he's excited about this. So I'm gonna say, man that approach as approached with challenge wins coin toss and celebrates the chance to go first. All right, so in this case, for the AI image, I want to display a man celebrating a coin toss victory. Now, will AI know what that means? It probably should. I mean, it should know what that means, considering that at least in the NFL, when it comes to playing, football, and by football I mean American football, at certain points in the game, there's a coin toss to decide who's going to receive the ball first. And so AI should have access to all of that and should be able to process what a coin toss victory looks like, you know. So what we want to do here is we want to do a close shot for the coin toss victory, a medium shot for the flipping in the air. I think everything else could be medium except the handshake. I want to get that close shot. So now that we have our 8 frames laid out, one of the nice features that we can do is we can do something called playback, which will, for storyboarding genre, just for the storyboarding genre, it will move through our frames and allow me to just visually, at this point, since I don't have images yet, it will allow me to just visually move through the frames in my mind And once I'm satisfied with how the narrative is moving, then I would take these AI prompts and go and create the images, which is a process in and of itself because the first image, the second image may not be the image that I ultimately want. So I might keep tweaking it to finally get the image that I want. And then once I have that, I would paste it back in this particular tab or whatever tab that I'm working on. So let's see. Let's go ahead and play this back. In order to do that, I'm going to go to search and I'm going to type in S1. And that's going to bring back all the search results. I have 8 of them, all of my scenes. It's going to place them in the order of 1 through 8. Now I'm going to choose the macro called playback, option number 7 here. And so let's let this run. And it's just going to show each one of my tabs one at a time. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So as you can see here, it moved pretty quickly through all of my frames, which if I had images here, that would have probably worked well because I could just see the images changing pretty fast. But because I don't have images here, and I actually want time to read this, and it takes a few seconds to read this, so I want to slow it down a little bit. In order to do that, I'm going to go to settings, and there's an option here called playback speed. I'm going to set that to slow, and that should slow it down a little bit. So now I'm going to go back to search, and I'm going to choose playback. So it should move a little bit slower, give me a few seconds each frame to read. Let's see if I can keep up. So man is playing Miss Pac-Man on the arcade in the rear of the venue near the men's bathroom. Great. See, I had enough time to read that. Man sitting at bar is slightly drunk and is talking loudly to the bartender. Okay, medium shot. See, so now I could flow with it. Man sitting at bar is noticing the t-shirt of the man playing Miss Pac-Man. That's the third frame. Man gets up from bar and aggressively approaches the man playing Miss Pac-Man. So far, so good. Man loudly challenges the man playing Miss Pac-Man to a two-player duel. All right, we got 3 more to go. Man playing Miss Pac-Man accepts the two-player duel challenge. So far, so good. Close-up shot. Man displays a half-dollar coin and flips it to decide who will start the game first. Which man? Hmm. Man that approach with challenge wins coin toss and celebrates the chance to go first. So those are my 8 frames. It moved slower, allowing me to read the whole thing. And having read it, I'm going to make a slight change here where it said man that approach with challenge. And I'm just going to place that in here for frame 7 so that I know which man displays the half-dollar coin, right? And so that's the playback. It just went through each frame and it allowed me to read through each one. I found something that I wanted to change. I changed it, and now I'm ready to what would be do the next activity, which would be placing images in here for each frame. But that's the first part of this process, just getting the scene set up. And once the scenes are set up, then I go put the images in. Once the images are in, then my scene is complete. Then I can just move on to the next scene. So in the event that you're gonna have what would be many scenes, you want to have what would be a way to organize your scenes so that you could zoom out and see how your scenes are actually connected. So in order to do that, we have a feature called outline, or I should say a genre called outline. So we're going to use that outline to to set what would be a that structure for our scenes up. And then we're going to switch back to storyboarding to complete the images. So for now, we're at outline. And when we switch to outline, we have what would be the outline phrases. And I'm going to clear out my prompt. Excuse me, I'm going to clear out my output pane by clicking option 4, clear PKD. And once that's clear, I'm going to this is going to be a video, right? So I'm not going to get into specifics if it's a movie or if it's a TV show or if it's a cartoon. Just going to be very generic here and just call it a video. I'm going to give it a title. Not right now, though. Right now I'm just setting up what would be the structure of my outline. So I'm going to just set up the structure and then I'm going to edit it to add the details. Video presenter is not really important right now. I'm going to give the video in terms of minutes, or I could choose hours. Let's just go with minutes for now. I'm going to limit it to 30 minutes. All right. So I can fit quite a lot of scenes in 30 minutes. And now, but beneath that, as far as the outline goes, the outline is by default structured to capture what would be biography or autobiography details. So the phrases that you see in outline are going to talk about the different sections of a bio, like your childhood, your young adult years, your midlife, your senior years, whether book or video format. And then at the very bottom, there's options for what the story is going to be about and ending credits or how I want to close the talk. So I'm going to choose story about, and I'm just going to click OK. And then I'm going to give it some ending credits. Let's just go type in ending, and we'll give it some ending credits. So for now, this would be a good structure to start with. So I'm going to let's just give it a title now. I'm going to call it something like let's call it Adventures of a Miss Pac-Man. Let's call it Gamer. All right. So I said that's the title, 30 minutes. And tell a story about. So what I want to do here is I'm going to leave that there, but I want to insert a custom phrase. And instead of tell a story about, I'm going to say uh, create a scene about. All right. So first thing to do that, I'm going to insert a step. So it inserts that blank line here. Then I'm going to say add custom phrase and say create a scene about anything. We're going to click OK. Yes. All right. So create a scene about anything. And I want this scene to be about a drunk guy at the bar challenging our main character, right? So we're going to go to edit. We're going to say man at bar challenges main character to a duel. All right, so that's what this scene is about. So I have my outline, and as I'm creating more scenes, I will insert them beneath this scene. And now my structure is almost complete. I'm going to remove line 3. Don't need that. So remove that. Yes. All right. So I don't really care about the end credits yet, but I'm just going to keep that there because it's part of my structure. And I'm satisfied for now. So I'm going to save this as a PKD. But because it's my outline, I'm going to mention outline. So I'm going to call it scene outline. And let's let it go ahead and format that. And this will serve as my high level outline that connects me to all of my scenes. All right. And the way I'm going to connect them is I have a view link option here. So I'm going to type in view. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the link option here. So I'm going to type view and click that. And then I'm going to choose sheets and name ranges here at the bottom. And I'm going to scroll to scene 1. All right. And I'm going to center this. So as I'm creating more scenes, there'll be a link that always takes me to the first frame of that particular scene. And once I'm on that first frame, then it'll be easy for me to navigate by clicking the different tabs. Or I can just go to search, of course, and type in the scene number, scene 1, and it'll show me all the frames, and I can just use playback to move between those frames to just observe and watch the playback and read out loud or read privately the captions. And if I'm satisfied with how the narrative flows, then thumbs up. If not, make more changes and just keep doing that process in a repetitive, ongoing way until I've completed all of my frames in the scene and, of course, all of the scenes that are in my outline. And once my scene outline is complete, all of this work is done, I should have all of these view links, my structure's there, and I can go back and check it. Let me just this typo fix here. I can go back and check it to make sure it falls within the 30-minute limitation. So that's a great way to structure. Now that I have my outline in place, I'm going to go back to settings, go back to storyboarding genre. And when I go back to the PKD sheet, it's switched now. The phrases are now back to storyboarding. So I would clear out my PKD because it has the old data in it from the outline. I'm going to clear that out. And now I'm ready to work on my next scene, which in this case, I'm not going to, but this is the process I would use as I was moving from scene to scene. Another option, if I wanted to keep my scenes totally separate, I could always just save this entire document as its own document, like scene 1 PKD, and then I could just have a fresh new workbook called scene 2 PKD. So you get to decide what level of abstraction you want to use as you're breaking apart your scenes. My suggestion is to keep your scene outline uh, labeled in a way so that you know that if you have multiple PKD sheets, if you have multiple sheets like this, make sure you mention that this particular sheet has the scene outline. You want your outline to just be in one location. You don't want to have a lot of different outlines because then what's going to happen is you're going to start getting mixed up as to which outline is the most recent. So if you have just one outline centralized in one place, from that outline, you can always link to a sheet that's in another workbook, if that makes sense. So one outline, multiple workbooks, you can just link to it. And when you click view, instead of opening that sheet, it'll just open up that whole workbook, but it'll take you to that specific sheet, which would be scene 2 in that workbook. I know that's a lot, but it's pretty simple stuff. And all of this is set up to be as simple as possible. As time progresses, it's just going to keep getting more and more simpler as I add more functionality to the PKD tool. For now, what we have is the basic functionality to organize your thoughts into an outline, organize your scenes into frames, and create images using AI from the prompts, and then saving those images here where I'm moving my cursor in the black area beneath the caption, so that as you're moving from frame to frame, you can see the transition of your images that are then creating that story and creating that scene. So what I want to get into next, and we're going to jump into that in the next session, is going to be the actual AI generation of the AI images. And then we're going to take those images and we're going to place them into each frame. And then we're going to play back those images, and we're going to see our story developing when we play that back frame by frame. And once that's done, we'll close out that next session, and you'll have a rock solid idea as to how to use the PKD tool for storyboarding purposes. It's going to just dramatically transform your ability, upgrade, I should say. It's going to upgrade your ability to storyboard, and you're going to be able to storyboard without a script, like straight off the top. You can freestyle a whole storyboard. You can have an idea for just about anything, and you can use the PKD tool to just create your storyboard in minutes, and you're going to be using AI in a very efficient way. You're going to get exactly the type of images you want in the style at the angle that you want, and everything's just going to be so beautiful at the end. And you're going to be asking yourself, how did I create this story so quickly? I want to do more. And you're just going to be able to create, you're going to be able to pump out exponentially more creative work as you start to develop these storyboards straight off the top of your mind, from your outline, of course. And you're just going to get so much done as a result. If you're in the business already and you do storyboards, and you've been thinking about a way to accelerate your whole storyboarding process, well, you found it here with the PKD tool. I've already accelerated my process, and I'm pretty sure once you know have a rock solid idea how to use the tool, and you've used the tool a few times already, you're going to be well on your way to accelerating your storyboarding process. And it's just going to be, amazing, absolutely amazing, with the level of efficiency and productivity you're going to gain with this acceleration tool. So, with that said, I'm ready to put back on my shades. We're going to play this back one more time, but this time we're going to switch it to normal mode. And let's just play it back. I'm going to go to the search, and let's see if I can keep up with normal mode. It might move a little bit too fast, but let's see. So let's go to playback, and 3, 2, 1. Playback begins now. Frame on. Let's go. Man is playing Miss Pac-Man on the arcade in the rear of the venue near the men's bathroom. Man sitting at bar is slightly drunk and is talking loudly to the bartender. Yeah, that's good. It's giving me a second to catch up. Man sitting at bar is no. Man gets up from bar and aggressively approaches the man playing Miss Pac-Man. Man loudly challenges the man playing Miss Pac-Man to a two-player duel. Man playing Miss Pac-Man accepts the two-player duel challenge. Man that approached the challenge displays a half-dollar coin and flips it to decide who will start the game first. Man that approached with challenge wins coin toss and celebrates the chance to go first. And that's it. So, as I was moving in a normal speed, I messed up somewhere around frame 3, and let's see, frame 2 and frame 3. And what messed me up was that because these first few words are the same and it was moving pretty fast, it took me a little bit longer to notice that it had moved because when it changed, I was still looking at this and I hadn't noticed the change until it already moved to frame 4. So that just gave me an idea as to what I want to do to prevent any sort of confusion like that going forward. I'm going to place some sort of number here that changes. Something is going to change it where I'm moving the mouse so that I can clearly see that it changed to the next frame. So we'll put some sort of indicator there. I'm not going to do that right now, but in the next session, you might see that there. Not making any promises, but you might see that there. But outside of that, normal was pretty good. I was able to at least read all the captions. I wasn't able to really view anything else, but at least I was able to cover the captions, which is great. So with that said, I'm going to go back to my outline here. I'm going to take a glance at this, and we're just going to fix the coloring here. I'm going to take the bold off, and I'm going to set that to the same background as everything else. And I'm going to bold the value here so that it sticks out. Phrase keyword format style. Everything else looks good. Yep. So I'm satisfied with that. My outline is, oh, I didn't mean to do that. Let's click the back button. Okay. So my outline is set up nicely. And I think we're good here. I'm going to hide the settings sheet. I like to have that hidden. And let's see. All of my sheets are set up nicely. Okay. And my PKD is cleared out. And my search is going to just leave it on S1 for now because when we come back, we're going to pick up from S1. So with that said, thank you for noticing the creative uses of phrase keywords. We covered storyboarding in this session, and it turns out we're going to need a second session after all, where we're going to get into the actual images. But that's it for now. Thank you for visiting us at Phrase Keywords, where you've learned how to phrase your flows using phrase keywords under creative uses, storyboarding. I'll see you in the next session, and thank you for your attention to this one. Until next time, peace and love. I'm out.